Hi everyone, my name is Demosa Weberbay, librarian here at Scholastic, and welcome to Live from our library. And this month we are doing holiday gift books for kids of all ages. So, during the holiday season, you want to be able to give a gift that is, at least me, educational and also fun. And in fact, I think I may have mentioned last year, I wrote a post once called the Book Aunt for the Scholastic blog, if you want to look for that. It was all about how I always give gifts during the holidays, and my nieces and nephews can kind of tell from the shape of the gift that they're getting books from me. So I've got each of these wrapped up, and I'm going to unwrap them one at a time in different age bands and go through. If you have any questions as we're going through of ideas that you want to get for books for different ages or different things that people are into, then go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll stop throughout and try to see if we can get you some good ideas. And we're going to post the list, of course, as usual, on scholastic.com/parents on the Raise a Reader blog. So, starting off with one of my favorites, and I think that this is the one that is just kind of the gift for the holiday season. Somebody who's like me and many others, a Harry Potter fan. And that is the illustrated Harry Potter. If you guys can see that. And this is the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. You can see the night bus on there, illustrated by Jim Kay and written, of course, by J.K. Rowling. And so I already have space on my bookshelf laid out for this entire series. So book 3 is going to go up there with 1 and 2. And these are just, very fun and exciting. Also, Fantastic Beasts and The Cursed Child, all those kinds of things are great gifts to give for the Harry Potter fan. So that's my the favorite. All right, so we're going to start off with books for early ages. All right, and in here, I don't have any board books this time, but I will think of some if you ask. And I've got some picture books, all that are favorites of mine this year in particular. And this one is We Are Growing by Mo Willems and Lori Keller. You can see that. A lot of kids love the Pigeon books and Elephant and Piggy books. I love this one in particular, We Are Growing. It's about blades of grass, and it starts off with Elephant and Piggy. You can see that they are reading this book in particular. You can see they're holding it. They're very excited. One of my favorite scenes in this book is when the lawnmower is kind of coming for all of the different blades of grass, and they're all like shaking in fear, and then the lawnmower goes by and all the different blades of grass are trimmed evenly, and then they're like, we're growing again. It's just a really fun book, and Mo Willems is really talented. So I think that if they like Elephant and Piggy, they would enjoy that. And then Why Am I Me, which is by Paige Britt, illustrated by Sean Coles and Selena Elko. Loved this book as well, and you guys have heard me talk about it before. You've also seen Selena and Sean talking about their creation process together here on the Scholastic Parents page. The Why Am I Me has kind of an urban setting. They're on a train in different places. You see all kinds of different beautiful people, and this is just a beautiful book for this holiday season and this year. And then this one, Mama Lion Wins the Race, by John J. Muth, and you may remember him from some of the books that, he does these wonderful, watercolors, Zen shorts, Zen ties, Zen socks, and this one is a race with all of these different stuffed animals. This is the mother, and then the baby, tiger, and there's just like a wonderful lesson in here about helping and stuff like that. So I think that this would be just a beautiful book. I'll flip through some of the pages so you can see the wonderful illustrations. Yeah. So fans of John J. Muth would, I think, enjoy this one as well. All right, so let's see. We've got a question already. Thank you. There we go. All right, so we have one from Rebecca Clark. A good series for a 3rd grade boy reading at a 4th to 5th grade level. And then I see another person, Tracy Gallagher, looking for a series of books for a 13-year-old boy. He has the popular ones, but I want something different. And then, okay, so for series books for 13-year-old boy or 4th to 5th grade level, which would be somebody who's like kind of 9th to 10th grade. I mean, of course, I love Rick Riordan, and if they've already read his Lost Heroes of Olympus, excuse me, or Percy Jackson and the Olympians, I really like the Kane Chronicles, which is set with Egyptian mythology. So if a kid is really interested in mythology, particularly Greek and Roman, and has already really gotten into the world of Rick Riordan, then that would be a great series for them to go into. And Rick Riordan is actually doing a bunch of series or promoting different books with a line called Rick Riordan Presents, that's giving you different folklore by authors that are from all over the world, you know, different cultural experiences in like mythology and folklore that'll get explored with some of those books. So I think that would be a fun series. The I Survive series, of course, is always super popular for the 3rd or 4th and 5th grade level. And this is something that's not quite fantasy. If somebody's into nonfiction, then there are a lot of kind of autobiography or biography books. Who Was and Who Is. The Who Was are about people from the past, historical figures, and the Who Is books are about people from the present. So that's a good nonfiction one. And I'll keep on thinking of different series that are interesting. Something that's different is the main thing from the usual. Look at that. And then we've got Dolores Coleman. Books for a 3-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl. I'm a childcare teacher, and I live to read and dance with them. We have read Llama Llama, Pete the Cat. When Mommy's ready to bring out something just as fun and entertaining for them, thanks in advance. So love to read and dance. So you're looking for a book maybe that has like a good rhythm to it. I know one of the older ones I love is Brown Bear, What Do You See? I can't remember exactly who the author of that, but I just remember the rhythm and the cadence of that. Brown Bear, what do you see? I see a little dog looking at me, and then it's kind of like little dog, what do you see? I see a cat, some kind of cat or something looking at me. I can't remember the exact order. Eric Carle is the author, so that's a good one. Read and dance with them. There are a lot of times where they take famous songs and like turn them into a book. There's a book that's it's got the lyrics to a Bob Marley song. I believe that it's called One Love. And I know the illustrator is Vanessa Brantley Newton, and I think about who the author is. Well, Bob Marley. So that's a fun one. You could play the song, listen to it. Oh, Sadia Marley. As you could play the song by Bob Marley, read the book, enjoy the illustrations. There are a few others that are where somebody takes like lyrics from a song. You can always get books that sometimes they play music along on the tape when they play just a regular picture book. So those are fun. I'm trying to think of other ones that are dance related. And then Tracy Gallagher. Okay, so keep on asking questions. I'm going to keep on thinking about series and stuff like that. I mean, a box, when you get a series like all in a box for the holidays, that's one of the most fun kind of things, especially if you're a reader, because you have everything you need all together at once. Oh, so let me switch my side. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. Pre-K to 2nd grade. So I put these all together, and we're going to have one on the list for the Raise the Reader blog, but these are all kind of emblematic of the same thing, which is Lego. In particular, I've got Lego Star Wars and Lego Ninjago, which are just incredibly popular right now. As you may know, the Star Wars movie is going to come out soon. Lego Ninjago, the movie came out a little while ago, so these both tie in, but even without the movies having come out, these are popular. And these in particular, they come with the little minifigures, so anything like that that's got a little Lego person or minifigure. This one is R2-D2 and C-3PO's Guide to the Galaxy, and it comes with a little C-3PO, if you can see that. This one comes with the Red Ninja, and this one comes with a Stormtrooper. So that is the kind of, gift that somebody get really excited when they open up. If they're into Lego, which there's some research that I was looking at recently, and you see that for the youngest age band and the middle, Lego is still very kind of fun and popular. All right. So then, also for that age range, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, I've got the Magic School Bus Rides Again, Sink or Swim. And on Netflix, they have there's a new show of the Magic School Bus, like, for a new generation. So these are some of our branches readers with some of these new stories. Make sure I put this in the right place. And then this, the Shoppies Let's Get Cooking. And this is fun because, it's full of recipes. If you've seen some of the Shopkins stuff in the stores or in some of the books, then you know that they're kind of like little emoji, like collectible things. My nieces have the charm necklaces and stuff, but I think for me, who loves to bake, especially around the holidays, to make different cookies with my nieces and stuff, this would be a fun book to give them because it gives you opportunity to have an experience together, baking, which is fun. So, Shopkins, Let's Get Cooking, and The Magic School Bus Rides Again. The author, we'll have that on the list on the Razor Reader blog. Okay, let's see if we got a new question. All right, Kate Cabral says, looking for a book I can read to with my kindergarten daughter at bedtime. Same thing that will take a few nights to get through. We read Diva and Flea together and loved it. Then tried Pax, but she lost interest. I think it was too wordy, not enough pictures. That's a tough. So kindergarten daughter, somebody who's about 5, something that will take a few nights to get through. We have a bunch of different books that kind of have like 5-minute stories, which might be good that you could go through, like 5-minute bedtime stories. I know that there's one for Peppa Pig. I'm pretty sure that there's one for Clifford. So things like that, where you kind of can go through stories and they're episodic. So it's not necessarily that it's connected with the plot from, the previous one to the next. Could be something that's fun to do. My father, when I was younger, was always reading Arabian Nights to us. So that's got lots of different stories like Sinbad the Sailor and things like, Aladdin that may be familiar from movies and things like that. So collections of short stories or folk tales or fairy tales, mythology, things that are kind of familiar but don't necessarily every night continue the plot might be a good way to go to keep the interest up. And then for books that have a mix of pictures and stories, but also you could get through over the course of a couple nights, I would definitely suggest like Captain Underpants. I think that would be fun. The new Dogman stuff would be fun to read through over a course of a couple nights. Some of the longer picture books are usually more informational. But you could pick a series of picture books that are by the same person. So let's say I had mentioned John J. Muth before. One night you could do Zen shorts, and the next night you could do Zen ties, and the next night you could do Zen socks, and then see what's similar about them. There's the Mercer Mayer stories, which have, I think, the Littles, and Berenstain Bears, stuff like that. Amelia Bedelia, also there are some now early readers. And so all of those, it's kind of the same character that you keep coming back to and getting different episodes with them. And those might be fun for your daughter if she's around kindergarten age. Okay. We love books as gifts. Can you recommend a specific series for different age groups? Okay. So I'm going to see if as I go through, I've got some books that are part of series, and then I'll try to make sure I answer that question all the way through. So we just did pre-K to 2nd grade. Keep the questions coming, please. Thank you guys so far. This is 3rd to 5th grade, so upper elementary. I've got 2 packages here because I had to start off with this before I got to the next one. So I've got Dogman, Dogman Unleashed, and Dogman, A Tale of Two Kitties. Now, if somebody doesn't already have all of the different Dogman books by Dave Pilkey, then this would be an opportunity to get them, all together. This would be a fun group of books to unpack. And I brought those out because in this package of recommendations, these are the books that you'll see on the list. I've got Dogman and Cat Kid by Dave Pilkey, which is a new installation into the series that's coming out soon. So these are a little, they're thicker as far as like reading every night. You might be able to get through, Dogman over the course of 2 nights or something if you're reading it as a story, and then a kid could read it by themselves if they're a little bit older and can do independent reading. So Dogman and Cat Kid. Got this whole kind of, who wouldn't be excited to get the full Dogman set. And then also for that age range, I've got again, thinking about the Star Wars movie coming out, I'm a fan, clearly, and it's, exciting to tie something to something that's in popular culture. They get really excited when they see it. So Star Wars Jedi Academy, this one is The Force Oversleeps, and this one's by Jarrett J. Kroshka. Sorry if I mispronounced his name. This is like the fourth book, I believe, in the series so far. The first one's Jedi Academy, then there's the Return of the Padawan, and I'm trying to remember the name of the third book, but there's one, Force Oversleeps. This is a graphic novel. Excuse me. I should point out. So flip through a little bit, you can see. And the first book starts out with a kid who, kind of like Harry Potter, he gets a letter saying that he's gotten into the Jedi Academy. So it gives you kind of the premise, and you get to see different characters that we're familiar with from the Star Wars movies as younger folks. Put that there. And then the last one I have for this age group is Wonder by R.J. Palacio. I think that this book could go for many different age ranges. So, if I start it here as kind of upper elementary, something that somebody could read independently, then, all the way up through adults, I would recommend this. The movie, of course, is in the theater, and in the plot, you've got a young man who's been homeschooled for a long time, and now he's going to school, and he's going to have to, deal with the social, being in school, socialization, and all of the kind of drama that comes with being the new kid. And in addition to that, he's had, multiple surgeries on his face and stuff like that. So he's, a little bit self-conscious, and his parents are also concerned. And if you saw the movie, this book, and you've been paying attention, this book has been very popular for the past couple of years. So, it's still a good gift. And I believe there's probably a movie cover, but this is the hardcover look for the book. So Wonder by R.J. Palacio. All right, and now we're going to switch to middle school. All right, so this is when you get, throughout the younger years, people are still excited about reading, but then we look at, the Kids and Family Reading Report, which we came out with earlier this year, and we see that you get to a certain age level, and then you start to see kind of a drop-off, and like how much time people are devoting to reading. So how can you keep them excited? You got to get books that are really cool for a middle schooler. And I've got this whole package here. Rip it, right? So the first one, I'm kind of nerding out with you here, right? This is the periodic table. The definitive visual catalog of the building blocks of the universe by Sean Callery and Miranda Smith, right? Now this book is just super cool, right? And for the kid who's into and interested in science, this is a book, it's a reference book, but sometimes folks are not always into fiction. I think a lot of times when we worry about if somebody is a reader or not, we're thinking about whether or not they're reading chapter books in fiction. But maybe they like nonfiction, which is why I had mentioned earlier the Who Was and Who Is series. There's also What Was, which is events in history. So there's another book that's like this called Rocks and Gems. And these are just like, really exciting. Any book that's an encyclopedic kind of fact book would be a cool thing for somebody. Because you can just look things up and read parts of it. And actually, yeah, I didn't put this on the list, but I grabbed it. I think I talked about this last year. If I didn't, this is the Lego Fantastic book. Factastic, sorry. And it's just like a book of facts, but it's also got Lego. So that's the kind of nonfiction that can be interesting to somebody who's not necessarily into chapter books. But if they are, this one here is Five Nights at Freddy's The Twisted Ones. Scott Cawthon and Kira Breed Risley. And last year I recommended the first one, Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes. And this, if they like that last year, then you get this to follow up. It's based on a video game, which I haven't played myself, but I understand that this was super popular last year in the book fairs, and I can imagine if they were running to get that last year, then they would be excited to get this one this year. And then I've got Refugee by Alan Gratz. We just read this book for our employee book club. We had the meeting yesterday. I fell for this book. I found myself crying on the train, happy tears, And it was like, one tear is coming and then another tear is coming, and I'm trying to wipe them away and be very dignified and chill. And then all of a sudden, the tears are just flowing, and I was like, it's happening. I am that person who is crying on the train. But I'm holding the book, so folks were aware of why, but they were looking at me concerned. This mixes 3 stories of young people who are refugees. And so one is a young man, Mahmoud, who's from Syria. There's a Joseph who is on the St. Louis, which is a boat that some Jewish families took out of Germany to try to escape early on in the war. And the boat ended up, they were trying to go to Cuba and different places and see if they would take in these group of refugees. And then the third group is from Cuba, some families that are trying to take a raft or a boat from Cuba to Miami in the 90s. So you've got 3 different periods of time, 3 different stories, each one of them just constantly leaving you on the edge of your seat, and a beautiful ending with it. Wonderful book. Highly recommend. And then this one is me being a little selfish, The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman is the book I'm showing you, and it's because I would love, if I was in this age range, or even now, to get The Book of Dust by Philip Pullman, which is one of the newest books that he has out, and it goes into the same world as The Golden Compass, and the other books, which are The Subtle Knife, and I can't remember the name of the third book right now. It'll come back to me. Librarians will be like, how could you not remember? But The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. I actually listened to the audiobooks, so if you're looking for something for a car trip or just to listen audio, they are full cast, so there's like 20 different people reading, which is fantastic. So remember to go to the blog. We're going to have the list there on scholastic.com/parents, raise a reader, and we'll have the names and the authors for everything. Okay, so looking at questions, we have one from Rhonda Humberson. Hey, Rhonda. She says, I have twins that are 6, a boy and a girl. They're learning to read and want to buy them some new books. Okay, and then EJ Morales asks, any more hot off the press graphic novels? Great question. I love graphic novels. I don't have it right here with me, but Graveyard Shakes is a graphic novel that we've got that recently came out. Remember the name of the author. There's the 5th book in the Babysitters Club series, which came out recently. We also have Time Shifters. Those are all books that came out fairly recently. Of course, Dogman and Cat Kid. And then in the high school one, I actually have a graphic novel, so I'm going to switch this. And then I'm still thinking about for twins that are 6 and just starting out reading. Answer the other one first, because in here in the high school section I've got this one that I'm excited about as well. This is Wires and Nerve, and it's by Marissa Meyer, and she's the author of the Lunar Chronicles. I see the art is by Doug Holgate, and so I love the Lunar Chronicles series. It's fractured fairy tales. The first one's called Cinder, the second one's called Scarlet, third one Cress, and then Winter, which I haven't read yet, and Fairest, which kind of gives you the backstory on the queen. So let me show you real quick. You can see. So each of these stories is this is a Cinderella version, Little Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel. I love the Rapunzel one because she is on a satellite that goes around the Earth. These are science fiction. As opposed to being at a tower, but she's a hacker, so she's like paying attention to everything that's going on Earth and like hacking into computer systems and helping out different groups of people, cloaking ships and stuff like that. And then they made this graphic novel which kind of gives you some backstory on some of the different characters. So if you look at that, you can see anybody who's really into the Lunar Chronicles series would be excited to get this. This is a backstory on an android who is kind of a character with Cinder in the book, so excited about that. And other graphic novels that are hot off the press, what's out right now, I have to think, see what I can come up with. In addition to that, if anybody has any ideas, new graphic novels, go ahead and put them in the comments. And then for the other question, which was about 6-year-olds who are getting started reading, this Branches series actually is for that earliest age range where people are first getting started. It's an early chapter book. So this is one book in particular out of that series. You can see that it's got pictures and it's got words. but then it kind of has like a look like a book. It's not quite the same size as this picture book or even this picture book. Sometimes when kids are going to school nowadays, they want to move beyond what they'll call quote unquote baby books, and they want to start to have a book that looks more like the size and shape of a novel. So a lot of the early readers that we see, like that have the different levels there, you can see on them, they'll say, kind of what the grade level is. You'll see a 1, 2, 3 and stuff like that. It's not always just the grade level, but just the steps in the different reading programs, whichever series you're looking at. So those are always great books for getting started. They have vocabulary that is tied to specifically the different kind of things that kids are learning in phonics at that point in time. We also do have phonics book sets. So we have one for Clifford. I know we have for like Lego Batman. I know that we've got them for Peppa Pig and stuff like that. And they're books that have different sets of phonics inside of them. In fact, there are also books for like the seasons and stuff like that. And so, if there's a different sound group that people are learning as they're learning to read, like the CH sound group versus the SH sound group versus the TH sound group, then in the box of phonic books, they'll have different, their stories, their fiction, but everything in, different books is kind of focusing on learning the different phonics and the kind of the intricacies of the English language, because sometimes something that is spelled the same way can be pronounced a couple of different ways, like O-U-G-H, it can be tough, it can be cough, it can be though, it can be dough, it can be rough, there's a lot of different ways. So those phonics book sets, especially if it's about something like Lego Ninjago or it's something that they're very excited about, they don't realize that they're learning phonics, as they're going through the book. So those might be cool. Thank you for that question. So those were for 6-year-olds. I got the graphic novel, thinking of some more. And then in high school, the next one I've got here is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. Hope I'm walking too much. This book also just really touched me. Jason Reynolds doing incredibly well right now. He's got so many books out right now. So this is emblematic of a few books. The other one I would recommend by him right now is Miles Morales, which is about Spider-Man, kind of the backstory on one of the Spider-Man arcs has a young man who's part Hispanic, part black, who's Spider-Man right now. That book is a good one. This one is older for young adults, and it's a novel written in verse, which was very exciting to see the whole thing, so not too intimidating. And a young man's brother just died, and he is bent on getting revenge. He is just like really upset and trying to figure out how he's going to deal with that. I don't want to tell too much because the book happens very quickly. So I don't want to give away the frame for the story, but I love books and movies and television shows where everything kind of happens in one night or in a couple of hours, real time. So this, like the pace and the style that he used writing this in verse just fits the moment that this kid is going through very well. So especially if somebody's dealing with grief and trying to process, this would be a good one. And Jason Reynolds, very exciting. And then I've got here, this is The Knowing by Sharon Cameron. It's a sequel to The Forgetting. So, I like to pull out ones that are just super exciting for me because sometimes that's the way I shop for gifts. What would I be excited about? And that's what I try to get for someone. Most of the time we're reading fantasy and stuff like that, but I really love science fiction because I love the what ifs. And so the first book, The Forgetting, you have this society where every 12 years everybody forgets everything. And so they all carry around a notebook attached to their belt where they write down, kind of who they are, who their friends are, their siblings, their job, so that when the forgetting happens, which is kind of like, if you remember The Purge, like people kind of go crazy the night before because they're not going to have to remember what they did. When you kind of wake up and you're like, who am I? You look at this notebook and you can see, that person over there, that's your sister sleeping in that bed next to you, and that's your father, and this is what you do for a living. So in the first book, the main character, and I'm just telling you first chapter, so I'm not ruining it, she's the only person in society who hasn't forgotten. So she is walking around and she remembers everything. She remembers that moment before the forgetting when people were going crazy and what they did and stuff like that. She's a teenager. So you get through that whole book with the first book, learning like kind of why that happens and how she is the one person who knows what's up is dealing. And then this book, The Knowing, is kind of the next book in the series by Sharon Cameron. She also has books like Rook and stuff like that. She's a wonderful author, great story. So for the person who is interested in science fiction as opposed to fantasy, and not necessarily the kind of Hunger Games dystopian, but something, you know, like set on another planet, fun stuff, this would be a great recommendation. All right. Excuse me. So the last age range that we got is adult. Signs. And the first one that I want to recommend, I don't have a copy of the book here with me because I went to this author's signing and I got a different book signed. But that is Hunger by Roxane Gay. That she's an amazing writer, and I think that would be a great gift for the holidays. Something I would love to get. Hint, hint. Everybody I know who's watching. And then I have this one, I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erica L. Sanchez. I will say that I, took this home yesterday because I was like, let me read a little bit of it so that I can, describe it better today. And I'm already halfway through the book. I read it on the train on the way home. And I can always tell if I'm really into a book if when I get home, I usually just read on the train, but if I take it out of my bag, I continue to read it. And I got up this morning actually and read some more of it. And the young woman here, her sister, when it starts off, she's just passed away. And so she's, in the kind of early stages of trying to figure out grief and stuff like that. And she goes and she's sleeping in her sister's room because she misses her. She just kind of wants to cuddle with her sister's things. And she discovers some things that her sister seemed to be the perfect Mexican daughter, right? But she finds some stuff in her sister's room that is not in character with the kind of perfect older sister that she was, and she feels like she's the imperfect daughter. So she starts investigating because she wants to find out a little bit more about what her older sister was into, what her life was like. And thus far, it's set in Chicago. It's just fantastic. This book was a National Book Award long list title, so also an award winner. I got it before it got the award, but on the one they have in the store now, there may be a medal. So this and Hunger by Roxane Gay are the ones that I have as recommendations for adults. So before we go, let's see. Any additional questions? EJ, Pamela Weir, writer, suggests for graphic novels, My Son Loves the Dream Jumper series by Greg Grunberg. The second one came out in October. That is correct. Those are really good. There's also newsprints and I love the Cleopatra in Space series by Mike Mahak. I'm trying to put together my own Cleopatra cosplay outfit for a future Comic-Con. Michaela Patterson asks, thank you, Pamela, do you have suggestion for a book to increase the vocabulary? My daughter is in 4th grade. I read a book called 13 Words, and it was a little bit of words to wear, a challenge, and like despondent, and a few others as well. Interesting to increase their vocabulary. I mean, how old is she? 4th grade. So I love books that have, like a glossary in the back, or, kind of give you back history and definitions on stuff. So something that has vocabulary. I'm thinking of Bad News for Outlaws, which is a book about Bass Reeves from the Old West. One of the reasons I love that book is because in the back there's a glossary, there's references for additional things to read. I'm trying to think I will have to take a look and see if I can find for you books that have like specifically that work on vocabulary. I know I mentioned with the younger folks the books that are focused on phonics. For somebody who's a little bit older than that, though, Adrian, 4th grade, see if I can find some stuff, some recommendations for books that kind of increase vocabulary in particular. I always love, obviously, books by like Judy Blume, and I think of like Lemony Snicket and stuff like that are just the Mysterious Benedict Society. If you've heard of that series, I think it's by Trenton Lee Stewart. There's a few books in that series, and it has a very kind of a smart kid who gets into a special school. As we can see, this is kind of a thing, right? But, you know, he takes the test and he's kind of, you know, I know that the second book they end up on a ship, they're traveling around and stuff. And because of the nature of this being a kid in particular who's known to be smart, he's using kind of bigger vocabulary and stuff like that. So the Mysterious Benedict Society and all the books in that series I think would be great. As far as series recommendation in general, not just for the vocabulary, because I know people have been asking about series recommendations. So that is what we have for you today. A lot of different stuff that I would be excited about getting. But if you take a look at the Kids and Family Reading Report that we did we put out all the way back in the beginning of January, you know, you remember, just always keep in mind that kids are looking for stories with characters that are smart and strong and brave. They're looking for stories that kind of get them outside of their own experience so that they can see what it's like in different parts of the world and stuff like that. And, you know, kids are looking for stories where they can see people who are like themselves, and also, you know, on the converse, you know, where they can learn about new cultures and stuff like that. So when you pick the book up, you can think to yourself, like, is this something that I've heard kids talking about, is associated with a movie or an event or something that's coming out? But also if it's, you know, just has a good story, is funny, and, you know, has a character that's smart, strong, or brave, then you'll probably, you know, be picking something that's really good. And don't be afraid to ask the librarian or, you know, the folks in the store, and they can help you. We are all super bookworms, and we are happy to give you recommendations. So thank you. Go to scholastic.com/parents, raise a reader blog, and see the list. Have a great holiday season.